All right. Well, hello everybody. I'm Cooper. This is the seventh College Football Corner live show that we have been doing this year. If you notice, it's just me right now. So it's just me. Um, but Trent might be joining us later to make his picks. We'll see in due time. But for right now, it's just me, and we are going to be going over all of the games that happened last week. We're going to be going over the games that are happening this week, and we're going to be talking about a couple other things, the AP poll, and big news for Penn State, James Franklin being fired. We're going to talk about that too um, later on. So, without further ado, let's get into it. A big week last week. We did not have a show last week. We had just had too much going on, and we could not do it last week. But this week we are back, and we're going to be doing one every single week. Hopefully, we'll let you know on the Instagram if we're not. But the plan is that is what we're going to be doing. So let's get into this big stacked week, and let's go over the biggest game of the week by far. Um, Indiana at Oregon, a top 10 matchup. And I think it was really kind of an expected outcome that Oregon was going to win this game. Um, I believe Oregon had the second longest winning streak at home in the country. Autzen Stadium is a really tough place to play. And surprisingly, this game really wasn't even close. If you watch this game, it just really felt like it was not even close. Like the score shows that it's 30-20 here, as Indiana did win by 10 points, but it's just such a this was just such a weird game because like the outcome was so different from what everybody thought. Oregon was a proven team. I mean, their biggest one was against Penn State, and now we know that Penn State's not a proven team, not a really good team. I mean, you can make that argument that they weren't ever really proven, but I mean, Oregon was a legit team. I had them in my top five. A lot of people did as well. And I mean, this is just a shocking outcome and you got to start out with Fernando Mendoza. Another good game from him. He had a pick six in this game, though. I mean, the amount of mistakes that Indiana made, if you would have told me that they would have done them at the beginning of the game, I would have been like, yeah, I have Oregon winning this game. Like it's just it's crazy that they were able to give up a pick six, have a couple other mistakes thrown in there, and they're able to walk away with this win convincingly. This was not close. Indiana kind of just dog walked them. It was really kind of just strange to see, and so I think that is probably the biggest takeaway that I have from this game is that it's just Indiana looks like a really, really good team. It's really impressive what they're able to do here, especially on defense. I think defensively they really did dominate Oregon. If you look at this game, if you look at what Dante Moore was able to do, he wasn't able to do a lot. He threw two interceptions. Granted, those were at the end of the game, but um, this Indiana defense is just so physical. I love this team, and Indiana did get a touchdown off of busted coverage early, but other than that, they only got 6 points on offense after the first quarter. Um, insane, insane. Um, that's how that goes. And Indiana, you kind of look at it throughout the entire game. They were pretty consistent on offense, and they were pretty consistent on defense. They were the more consistent team. And Oregon came out and burst, but they weren't consistent. And that's what really shocked me in this game. I mean, if you look at it, Dante Moore goes 21 for 34, 186, one touchdown, two interceptions. Just not really able to um, throw the ball very well. I mean, just over 50%, under 200 yards, only one touchdown off of that big 44-yard play to I believe Malik Benson. Yes, that was his only catch of the day, and he was the leading receiver. He had one catch for 44 yards, and he was the leading receiver in that game. That's crazy. But apologies. But and crazy, crazy. And then you look at the rushing stats here. Indiana, I really like their rushing game. I really like Roman Hemby, and they weren't able to run it for a whole lot. Roman Hemby only had 19 carries for 70 yards, but the team overall had 111 rushing yards compared to Oregon rushing for 80. They were able to shut down Oregon's run game pretty well, and I mean, just overall, um, Oregon looked really dominated. Was really dominated this game, and I think this brings up an argument of, is Indiana the number one team in the country? I think that's something that you can look at here, and I think it's kind of crazy to say right now because I think Ohio State also looks really good, and I wish they played in the regular season, but they don't. Um, but I really do like this team. I like Fernando Mendoza a lot. I like Roman Hemby. I like Elijah Surratt, um, Omar Cooper as well. I think they've got a really good set of wide receivers, um, and I love their defense. So I think Indiana looks really solid. I think that time will tell throughout the season if they're able to keep this up. I don't know if they will be, but I think that they're definitely a top five team in the country. And it's really shocking. And another thing to point out is how well Kurt Signetti has done over the first 2 years of this program. I think you look at it, and Indiana consistently has been bad. In my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen them go over 8-4. And now they're on track to go at least 10-2, 11-1, maybe. Penn State's looking like a win now. I believe they play them, and it's just like incredible job by Kirk Signetti. What he did at James Madison, and now what he's doing at Indiana is just, it's insane. It is insane how well he's able to do, and I think that it's just props to him. I love his like style of coaching, just hard, like just hard coaching. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like he's so good at getting a group of guys motivated, because Indiana's never going to be the most talented group of football players. And I can guarantee you there's probably 25 other talent or rosters who have better talent than Indiana, but they're not going to get half as much effort as out on the field as Indiana does. And it's just insane what Kirk Cignetti's able to do. And he's a really good part of why this team is where they are. But Fernando Mendoza is another part of that, and this defense is another part of why they're doing that. And just, I mean, insane. I mean, you look at the second half of this game for Oregon: punt, field goal, punt, interception, interception, end of game. Um, they just weren't able to convert anything. They got that pick six, but just insane how that ended up for them. No momentum offensively, and Indiana really able to shut them down. So that's my takeaway from that game. I think coming up for Oregon, I think you look at it and you're gonna have to reflect off of this, but I still think they can make the playoffs. But they don't look as strong to me as they did before. I think now they're gonna have to improve. I think they can, but I, I don't know what's next, and this is definitely a step down for them. And I don't really know if they can win a national championship now. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but that didn't look like a national championship winning team in my eyes. As we will move on to the next game. One of just a side note here before we really get into this game. My favorite college football rivalry. I think that this game, not this year, but consistently has produced some of the most incredible games that I've ever seen. I'm talking about the Red River rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma. Every single year, it's just it's usually high scoring. It wasn't high scoring this year, but over the last 10, 15 years, it's just been incredible. This rivalry is great, and thinking about it, maybe it's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. And so loved that this game was this week. And this was a really interesting game because coming into it, Texas was favored. They were favored heading into this game, and they were not ranked. And obviously, you don't go off of what the AP poll says because the AP poll is trash. But I mean, this was a Texas team that had not looked the part starting out this season. But I think there was a couple of kind of red lights that you can kind of see before this game happened, and there are some warning signs to see that this game might have been a blow, or not a blowout in Texas direction, but at least Texas winning it. I didn't know that it was going to go this way, but I think there was a couple indications. One being that Oklahoma doesn't really have a running game. I feel like they Jaden Ott has been an incredible disappointment this year. I thought Jaden Ott was going to be amazing, and it turns out he's really not. He hasn't been great this year, and Oklahoma really does not have a running game. They ended up in this game only 41 yards rushing, and excuse me. But I think that it's just incredibly like just disappointing how bad this run game is for Oklahoma. And you look at Florida, everybody's saying Florida's worse than Oklahoma. How did Florida beat, Texas, but Oklahoma did? And it's like, do you not like know what Florida is? They have a great running game. They're able to open up the pass and run game against Texas, and Texas has an amazing defense. That is the one thing that's keeping them in the playoff conversation. Yes, they're still in the playoff conversation. I think that they could definitely, spew off a few. I think even 9-3, they could make it. But I think that's the only thing keeping them in right now, and their defense is an incredible. It's probably top 10, top 15, and so you need to be able to run and throw the ball against this Texas team. And coming into this, Oklahoma wasn't going to be able to do that, and so they were going to have to rely on John Mateer. And John Mateer couldn't get it done. I mean, obviously, one of the storylines heading into this was his broken hand, and that he's coming off of 17 days of recovery. He's going to play in this game, and it just never was going to work. And you could see throughout this game that he wasn't all the way there. It felt like, and this defense was kind of swallowing Oklahoma up. They didn't have the best O line. You look at it, John Mateer 20 for 38, 202, three interceptions, just disappointing. This was pretty close in the first half, but then Texas started to run away late in this game, and I wouldn't say it was because of Arch, but Arch definitely didn't put himself in the way. I think that's a storyline that a lot of people are going to try to push. I think is that Arch Manning won this game for uh, Texas, and he really didn't do that. I feel like it was just that he didn't he didn't lose the game for them. You look at his stats: 21 for 27, 166, one touchdown, and the big stat: zero interceptions. You look at that one. That one's huge. That one's huge. He did not need to turn the ball over this game. He could not turn the ball over this game for them to win, and he didn't do that. He got sacked a couple times. Yes, Texas O line is lackluster, but Oklahoma's defense isn't as good as Texas's, and they're not as good as Florida's. And Florida's defense got to Arch Manning a lot more than Oklahoma did. And I think Texas is a good football team. They're a really good football team, and they're not Penn State level bad. They're not Clemson level bad. They're a solid football team. Arch Manning is still growing, still developing, and he's not going to get there, but he's getting better. And I think that's important. And so you look at this game; it's crucial that Oklahoma should have been able to run the ball, and they weren't. They got 48 yards running. Texas got 136. They beat them in a lot of stats, and I think overall you just look at the game, and Texas just started to roll in the second half, and Oklahoma just wasn't able to do anything. They weren't able to get the ball moving, and so I excuse me, but I think it's just kind of impressive from Texas to have this kind of performance a week after the Florida game. But you can kind of see this coming. I felt like, and if we did pick this game, I probably would have picked Texas because I think Oklahoma they hadn't really played a whole lot of competition yet. I know Michigan. I know Michigan was a tough test, but just nowhere close to Texas. I feel like I think Texas would beat Michigan as well. Well, actually, you look at that matchup. We could get into that. Michigan can run the ball at least, so we'll see. But I think that Texas is overall a better team than Michigan. I think this was their toughest test, and they lost. And so it's going to be interesting to see what Oklahoma does the rest of the season. I think their run game is still their biggest issue. I think their defense is solid, but I don't know. I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do with their schedule. And Texas, I think they still got a chance. Uh, let's look at their schedule real quick here. Um, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Texas A&M is their last game. Arkansas's one before that. I mean, I think, like I said, I think 9-3 is realistic to make the playoffs. I think some people are going to like him and haw at that and be like, "Oh no, 9-3, we're not going to make the playoffs. That never makes the playoffs." And like, it's just what college football is now. I don't like it. A lot of people don't like it. Some people like it, which is weird, but that's what college football is now. You can just kind of skate by and not do really well, and I think that's what Texas is going to do. They're just going to be just good enough to maybe make the playoffs. They got to win one of their ranked games against Vanderbilt, Georgia. They got to win two of them. They got to win either against Vanderbilt, Georgia, or Texas A&M. Two of those three, I feel like. I think if they're 8-4, there's no chance. But I think they got to win two of those games. Maybe the two ones at home they win. But I think there's still a chance. There's still a possibility, but I think it's going to be tough, especially with the lacking offense. I think 23 points against a lot of teams in the SEC just isn't going to get it done. So they were able to do it against Oklahoma. We'll see if they'll be able to do it the rest of the season. Um, if I had to give this game like a watchability ranking on a scale of 1 to 10, it was like a 3. Like it's just kind of it was very boring to watch. Um, and I was kind of disappointed because like I'm always like Red River rivalry games. I'm like, dude, this is going to be such a good game, but it wasn't. It was a bad game. Um, just watching it and a bad game for Oklahoma. Good game for Texas though. They got back um, in the winning column, and we'll see what they do the rest of the season. But the next game that we're going to talk about um, was a big one as well. Alabama at Missouri, big game, and Alabama wins this one 27-24. Interesting stat here: it's the first time that it's like one of the only times that an SEC team has beaten three straight top 15 opponents in 3 straight weeks. Crazy. Alabama has been looking really good since the loss to Florida State, and it's one of the weirdest. It's one of the weird dynamics this year. Is you kind of see Florida State going down the hill, and Alabama going up. It's insane. But let's look at this here. Alabama's Ty Simpson goes 23 for 31, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looks really solid. He's up there in the Heisman rankings right now. I think I've got him up there. And John Mateer was really kind of the one that people were like, oh, yeah, we'll just throw him up there because, he's throwing the ball a lot. Ty Simpson's up there. Do I think he should win the Heisman right now if the season was at the end of the day? I don't think so, but I think he's up there in the Heisman rankings. And I think if he can pull off a win against Tennessee and keep this ball rolling, I think that Alabama has a really good chance of making or I think Ty Simpson has a good chance of winning the Heisman. And I think Alabama has a really good shot at winning the national championship. They looked really solid against a really solid Missouri team. Bo Perubola, 16 for 28, 162, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, just a little sloppier. And that pressure from that Alabama defense. This is a good Alabama defense. Maybe not as good as some of the past ones, but this is a really good Alabama defense that's ready to kind of just prove themselves after what happened week 1, and they've been doing it the last couple of weeks. They've been shutting down. They shut down Vanderbilt after Vanderbilt's kind of unleashingness, getting unleashed in the first half against Alabama. They shut down Georgia in the second half, and this is really a second half team. It feels like Missouri marched down first drive of the game and scored. After that, they didn't really have a whole lot. It felt like Alabama was in control the entire game. An interesting stat in this game is the time of possession. Alabama had 38 minutes and 33 seconds compared to Missouri's 21 minutes and 27 seconds. Alabama had a grip hold on this game offensively. They were just on the field a lot more than Missouri was, and they weren't letting Missouri's defense off the field. Excuse me. But just insane work from Ty Simpson. Jam Miller had a good game as well. Unfortunate that he got concussed, but that's how it goes. And that's going to be important in the Tennessee game, I feel like. But he might come back. But Jam Miller had a good game, 20 carries, 85 yards. And I think this Alabama team just really showed that they're just able to win football games. I think this was a really impressive win from them. Um, you look at it, they were able to respond from the first touchdown. They were able to score on their first three drives and put up 17 points. But 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 Missouri was always in this game, and that's something that's really important. Is that Missouri was able to keep themselves in this game. Um, this team's a pretty good team. Missouri, I still think they have a playoff shot. I think they're going to have to fight for it, but I like Bo Perugula. I think this Alabama team, I mean, they're proving it. They're top five in the country, I feel like. It's insane to say that after what has all happened, um, what all happened week one with Florida State. They looked horrible, but these last couple weeks they proved themselves, and it's like I've kind of been saying to myself, like no, they'll lose this one, they'll lose the next one. They're not losing games, like they're winning all of these games, and very impressively. Um, Vanderbilt's a really good team. Georgia's a really good team. Missouri's a really good team. These are all really good games, and if they can put that cherry on top and beat Tennessee, um, put them in the top five, put them maybe top one. We'll see what happens with Ohio State, but I mean, this team is really good. It's a really solid team defensively. I'd like to see a little bit, more like firepower from the offense. I would have liked to see him pull away in this game, but on the road against Missouri, it's a really tough environment. I think a key part of this game as well is that they were able to shut down Ahmad Hardy, who was the star running back for Missouri. I think that was a key part of this game was that if they were going to let the run game flow for Missouri, that they were going to be in a tight corner. Um, Missouri still got about 150 yards rushing, but um, being able to shut down Ahmad Hardy, who was going to be a factor in this game, was super important. And I'm just really impressed by Alabama how they were able to do that. And then you look at the third downs. I think always looking at the third downs is really important. If you're trying to decide who wins or loses a game, you look at it. Alabama 6 for 15, that was okay, but Missouri 1 for 11 on third downs. That's just not going to win you a football game. You've got to convert on third downs at least half of the time. And they just did not. They did not. They converted one time, and I think that was just evident. And I think when you're playing this Alabama defense, when you're going to get stuck behind the sticks, you're going to have to convert on third down. And I think that's the key to the game next week for Tennessee when they play Alabama is they got to make sure that they're going to be able to convert third downs. That's super important. And Missouri just didn't do that. They would either have really good momentum offensively or they just would get stopped. And that's just not what you want to do. And it felt like Missouri was behind the eight ball after their first drive. They just weren't able to do a lot of impressive things offensively. So at the end of the day, that's just what that's how it goes, though. I think Alabama's defense just shined through here. Um, and I think that it was a really impressive game all around from Alabama. But I think Missouri still got a good shot at making the playoff. I think a lot of teams do. I think it's too early to predict the playoff or anything. I think there's so many teams, but these games will figure themselves out. And I think if we wait long enough, we could whittle this thing down to 4 teams. We don't have to do 12, but that's just my opinion on it. I think that 12 teams is too much, but what do I know? I'm just a dude. Um, but they do it because they like money. Who knows? Anyway, next game that we are going to be talking about here is the final game that we're talking about this week, and that is Georgia versus Auburn. This was Saturday Night Football, 7:30 prime time. Georgia wins this game 20-10, and really the storyline of this game was not the actual game. It was the refereeing and the officiating in this game. It was really crazy to see. There was a big call at the goal line that Auburn was up 10-0 early or late in the second or in the first half, and they end up fumbling the ball right at the goal line, and Georgia guy punches it out, and they call it a fumble. Georgia recovers that took forever. And an interesting storyline is that from the 2-minute timeout to the end of the first half, it was about 50 minutes of real time. And it was just really crazy to see that. Like, um, there was so many like just referee there was so much referee interference, and it really did mess with the game. Um, Looking at it first, though, at a game standpoint, Gunnar Stockton played pretty good. Um, 24 for 37, 217 yards. Jackson Arnold went 19 for 31, 137. Auburn had about 140 yards rushing. This was really a game that, if Auburn wanted to win, they had to jump on their offensive opportunities early. They weren't going to be able to out tough and outplay Georgia in the second half, but they might have been able to get that element of surprise in the first half, and that's what they did. They scored 10 points early. They could have had 17. Arguably, they should have had 17. I think the referees did get that one right. I was looking at it, and it kind of looked like that it never got across the goal line. But that one's definitely up in the air. So I think that either way, you look at it, I think that that you could do that, or call that what it was. I think another thing in that game was Kirby Smart calling a timeout, and then they took it back because for some reason I think he was saying that he didn't call a timeout, but you could clearly see he was holding this up. It's like just the referees were so involved in this game, and it was frankly it was stupid. Um, that's been a big problem with the SEC this year was officiating, and it is crazy that's what they have to. That's what happens. Like, I think referee involvement should be put at a minimum. I think a lot of people demand for instant replay, but then they get mad at it when it happens. Like, I I don't get it. And I think there's just a lot now. Just it's just it's just crazy. It's crazy. But you look at it, penalties. Georgia only had 6 for 60 yards. Auburn had 11 for 103 yards. Um, but you got to be better if you're Auburn. You got to lessen the penalties. You've got to lessen the mistakes, and they had a couple mistakes in this game. And so Georgia was able to take advantage of that. They were able to squeak out with this one, but it looked pretty bad for Georgia early on in this game. But they were able to sneak out with the win. Good win for them, and they head on to next week where they have to play Ole Miss, which that one's going to be pretty tough. That one's going to be that's the game of the week. That one's going to be super tough for them. But at the end of the day, that's what you got. That's college football nowadays. That's the SEC nowadays, with it being so tight. But that brings us to the end of our recaps for week one, and now we're going to talk about the AP poll, and we're going to talk about James Franklin's firing. First off, we're going to start off with James Franklin's firing, which happened over the weekend on Sunday. And it was something that I was not expecting at all. Crazy firing. I believe he had a $50 million buyout here, and it's one of the craziest things that I've seen in a while in college football. Just the downfall of Penn State. You go from being 3-0 and leading in overtime against a top 5 team or a top 10 team. I think Oregon was 6th at the time, but doing that to then go being 3-3 and firing your 12-year-long head coach. Like, what? That's crazy. I think you look at it, and I think the thing that I like to think about when I think about these head coach firings is like, what is this coach going to do, or what is a new head coach going to do for this program? Like, how is it going to improve? I think if you look at James Franklin, he has been incredibly consistent over his years, and this was a bad year. This was a bad year. You look at it. This year's a wash. They're going to go 7-5, 6-6, maybe 8-4. But this year's a wash. They're not making the playoffs. They're 0-3 in conference. Like, what in the world? But incredibly, incredibly consistent James Franklin has been with this program. I think you look out over the years, and he's had almost like 8 straight winning seasons. Um, if you don't include the COVID year, um, but I mean, there's a couple years in there where he did bad, but I mean, he brought this team to a playoff semifinal last year. He almost brought this team to a playoff in 2016. He brought this team to a Rose Bowl. It's just insane that they fire him and they spend this much money. And you think you're going to get a better coach than that? Like I don't get it. I don't get the thought process here. I think you look at it, and there's a lot of coaches that they pull out. I think Matt Campbell's a good replacement. Manny Diaz, I think, is another option, but I just don't think any of those are going to really live up or exceed what James Franklin was going to do. Like I think he's one of the best coaches in college football, and I think if you look at it, like there's no way that you're going to be able to hit on a coach the first time around. And it's just insane. And with how like turbulent college football has been, it's not always about what you do in that year. It's about the culture that you have and who you're able to bring in. James Franklin was able to bring in talent. He brought in a lot of talent. His roster this year was super talented. It just didn't mesh. It didn't mesh. And next year it probably wasn't going to mesh because that was probably going to be a rebuilding year for Penn State. But I mean, frankly, it's insane that they fired him, I think, because like you have to start from scratch all over. When you have James Franklin, you have a guy who has a culture, who's going to be able to bring in talent, it's just insane that they did this. I feel like I know Penn State fans are kind of angry that this happened, um, or that they're 3-3, but I don't think firing James Franklin's the solution, and I think that really at the end of the day, um, this is a bad decision. This was a bad decision from Penn State. I think um, you know it's and especially firing a coach mid-season is just like completely ruining your season. I mean, the season was already completely ruined, but I mean, Penn State, they lost to Northwestern this week, lost to UCLA last week. Insane. Um, just insane. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just insane. Insane. But that's what happens. I think their next coach is going to have a big shoes to fill, and I don't really know if they're going to be able to do that because James Franklin's been incredibly consistent, and I would rather be pretty good at college football than switch it up and then like just be at the bottom of the totem pole. And that's a possibility with this new coach. So who knows? But it's just a completely different variable that you're putting um, on the table when you hire a new coach. So I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's Penn State's decision, and I think it's wrong, but who knows? So we will now move on to looking over the AP Top 25 for this week. Um, so this week, the top five kind of stays the same. Texas and Ole Miss switch. Indiana obviously moves up to the top five. They're in the number 3 spot, which I believe is their best ranking that they've ever had at um, at the top um, of the AP Top 25. I believe that's their highest ranking. Um, so good for them. I think that Indiana should be number 2, maybe. I think they have a good argument. They have the best resume of any team to be number 1. But I think obviously you got to keep Ohio State where they are, just because um, of what they did. They beat the number 1 team in the country, even though now they're 21. But um, you can't really take their win away after you already rewarded it. So I think the top 5 is pretty much right. I think Alabama moving up some and Texas Tech moving up some is good. I think Texas Tech is a very sneaky team, but I'd like to see them play a real team and see how they compare. Oregon's still at 8, or Oregon moves down to 8, but they're still in the top 10. I think that's a proper rating. I'd like to see how they respond from this, like kind of like I said. I think they're still a pretty doggone good team, but it's just going to be in, interesting to see how they respond after that. That just they just got dominated that game. That was insane. Georgia at 9. After their win, I think this is going to be a prove it game against Ole Miss. I think whoever wins this game is going to be right there with Alabama for the top of the SEC and Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M gets forgotten about, but they're right up there too. LSU, Tennessee at 10 and 11. I think they both have pretty big games this week. LSU playing Vanderbilt and Tennessee playing Alabama. I think that's a big game for Tennessee. Um, for LSU, I think this could be a trap game. I think Vanderbilt is a super good team. Um, and so I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Georgia Tech still slowly moving up the ladder, not losing a game. They're not going to reward an ACC team, but that's not my decision. Notre Dame moving up, they're 4-2. They have a big game this week against USC. Um, no, Oklahoma moves down to 14 after losing to Texas. I think that it's a proper rating, but they looked really bad. So I think 14's fine, but I'd like to see how they do against South Carolina this week. I think that's going to be interesting. BYU at 6-0, still not having really any respect, but I think it's going to be interesting to see them if they can go undefeated because I don't think they play Texas Tech in the regular season. Um, Let me look. Um, oh, they do. Oh, so that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game against BYU. Texas Tech and BYU. That's a game to look forward to. Um, uh, because they're the two undefeated teams in the Big 12. But the Big 12 has been so, and I want to comment on this. The Big 12 and the SEC have kind of switched spots. The SEC is so unpredictable this year, and the Big 12 is very predictable. Like, there's two teams at the top, and as far as I'm concerned, those are the two teams that are going to be in the championship game, even if they play each other in the regular season. Like like those are two. They're two. They're above every other team. The only team that's kind of close to them is Arizona State, and they're 4-2. Excuse me. Anyway, Missouri moves down to 16. That's a solid ranking. Um, Vanderbilt and Virginia, 17 and 18. I like that. Virginia, I think, is pretty sneaky, and they have a pretty easy schedule remaining. So I think that they can definitely kind of sneak up on people and maybe be in the playoff conversation. South Florida in the title or in the G5 title run. So is Memphis, who is at 22. I think this is going to be an interesting battle between them for the AAC championship and the Group of Five bid to the playoff. USC and Texas at 20 and 21. I think these are two teams that have got a lot to prove, but I think they're really talented. So we'll see what happens with them. Utah at 23, Cincinnati at 24, and Nebraska at 25. I think these are all teams that just are kind of they still need to prove it. I think to me. So I think this is a decent ranking. I think there are not a whole lot of things that I disagree with. And, and I think AP poll is getting better. AP poll is getting better, but I'm ready for the actual college football playoff committee to drop their rankings because then we can kind of see, where do they rank the group of five teams? Where do they have all the SEC teams? Where do they have the Big Ten teams? Where do they have the Big 12 teams? Like, um, what are they going to do? Who are they going to have at number one? Do they value resume over, you know, the talent that they see on the field? Like, what do they do? And so that's going to be something that I think is going to be really interesting is to see what the college football playoff committee decides to do. I believe their first rankings are at the start of November. So it'll be interesting to see what they do for sure. But the AP poll is still good to look at and kind of gauge where all the teams are at right now. And so it's good to look at that. So we will go ahead and move on to our final segment for this podcast. We will go and move on to our picks for this week. Um, this week is a pretty good week, honestly. Um, I think it's pretty stacked, especially on that Saturday throughout all the games. Trent and CJ, I think, will make their picks uh, later on off screen. But I'll go ahead and make my picks right now. Right now, let me look and see um, if Trent is going to be able to come on. I'm not sure right now, but I'll go ahead and make my picks for this week. And if Trent comes on, that we will um, add him on. So the first game this week that we are going to be going over is Louisville and Miami, which I think honestly is a really sneaky game this week. It's on a Friday night, and this could be a trap game for Miami. This kind of gives me vibes of the Miami versus Virginia Tech game last year, where Miami almost lost. I think Miami is super solid, but I think Louisville has heart. They're pretty physical. They have a good team, but I think Miami's just going to pull this one out. I think there's no way that Louisville wins this game. There's like it would actually be crazy if Louisville won this game. But I mean, this could be a trap game. It just depends on what mindset Miami has. Miami controls the outcome of this game. Like if they play bad, Louisville wins. If they play good, there's no way that they play their best and they lose this game. Like it's just that's how it is. Um, Miami's a better team, so um, we'll see what happens. But I definitely think that Miami's going to win this game. Next game that we have up is one of my favorite games of this week. LSU at Vanderbilt. At Vanderbilt. Um, Vanderbilt has been a really good team. I love Diego Pavia. I love um, this entire. Um, I love this entire offense. The defense could be worked on, but I still think that this team overall is solid. And I think LSU they were able to pull out a good win last week. But against South Carolina. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do um, against Vanderbilt, and I think this is going to be a crucial game in the SEC. And if I had to make my pick here, thinking about it, I like Vanderbilt. I like Vanderbilt, and I don't think LSU's that explosive on offense. If you look at their South Carolina game, they did not have that much firepower. Um, against South Carolina, and that was kind of an ugly game. And so I think Vanderbilt's going to come out. I think they're going to barely win this game. Excuse me. And I think it's going to be a upset victory for Vanderbilt. And I think this is going to be, um, kind of a shocker for LSU. I think they're going to come in here. I think a lot of people are going to expect them to win, and that's just not how it's going to be. So, um, there's my prediction for that. Next up, big game in the ACC. Big game in the ACC. Um, Georgia Tech at Duke. Duke undefeated in conference play, I believe. Yes, they are. They only lost to Illinois um, in a game where Illinois kind of tacked on points to end it off. Um, and then you look at it, Georgia Tech's looked really good this season. They're the second best team in the ACC. Haynes King, Jamal Haynes, you know, Malik Rutherford. This entire offense is great. And I think it's going to be a battle between Darian Mensah and Haynes King. I think Georgia Tech does come out on top, but I wouldn't be surprised if Duke won this game. I think that I think that Georgia Tech um, is a very solid team, but I think I think that at the end of the day, um, Georgia Tech's going to get it done. So next up, we will go to Williams-Brice Stadium, Oklahoma, at South Carolina. Um, it's this is going to be an interesting game just because of what South Carolina did um, um, to start the season. I think South Carolina is a really good team, but they just haven't shown it talent wise. Um, you look at it, very disappointing results this season. They just had their third loss of the season, and I think that this is a prove it game for them. I think Oklahoma's not going to be able to run the ball that well against this team. Um, I think South Carolina's got the better offense. I think South Carolina wins this game straight up. At home, I think this is a trap game for Oklahoma, and I think this is not going to go well for Oklahoma. After I did not like the result they had last week, I don't think I'm going to like the result I see this week, Roland. So, next game that we have up is Michigan State at IU. Is this a trap game for Indiana? I don't think so. I think Indiana wins this game very easily. I think Indiana has looked very solid, and now that they're going to go back home, play against an easier opponent, I think they're going to win this game pretty easily. I don't think it's going to be close. Um, anyway, next up we have Texas A&M at Arkansas. Just so many like decent games that are happening. I love that there's like decent games that I can kind of have on in the in the background on the TV if I'm in a restaurant. Like I love this. I love this. Texas A&M at Arkansas. I think Texas A&M wins this game. I have not seen Texas A&M that play that many impressive teams. They've played Notre Dame. I think that they've played a couple mid-tier SEC opponents, like Mississippi State. But I think this and they played Mississippi State, Florida. Now they're playing Arkansas. It's like, okay, come on, let's. I want to see you play somebody that's like actually going to be impressive to win against. Like that. Like I just want to see something that's gonna make me go, okay, this team is a top 5 team in the country. Um, so I I I hesitate. I want to be like, oh well, maybe they could pull off an upset here, but Arkansas just has not looked the part. They did have a good game against Tennessee, but Tennessee was able to beat them in the end. And I think Texas A&M is a far better team than Tennessee. So I'm going to go Texas A&M here. Um, next game I have up is Ole Miss at Georgia. This is one of the biggest games of the week. Um, and I think this is going to be a tough game to pick. I think Ole Miss, if you look at it, they haven't looked, amazing over the last couple of weeks, especially last week against Washington State, 24-21 at home, and now they got to go on the road to play Georgia. Um, I don't know, and I think Georgia's going to win this one. I think Georgia has the better quarterback. I think Trinidad Chambliss has looked shaky over the last couple games. Um, I think on the road, I don't think Georgia loses 2 straight home games, or I don't think they lose um, 2 home games in a season. Um, I think this has got to be Georgia. I think if Georgia loses this game, they are on the wrong track, and I think that they're way off from where they need to be. Because Ole Miss has not looked the part. I think they've looked okay. They've looked decent. And they had a good win against LSU, but I think this is a prove it game for both teams, and I think that Georgia's just going to come out on top. I like their running game a little bit more, and I think that their physicality is going to come out in the end. Next game I have on the docket is SMU at Clemson. My dogs, the Tigers, versus the SMU Mustangs. And big storyline coming to this game, Kay Klubnik has a sprained ankle and he might not play. So that is something that is very dicey. I don't like that for Clemson. I do like that they're playing at home. If Christopher Viziana is playing as the starting quarterback, I didn't like how he looked against Boston College late in the game last week. But I can't go against my Tigers. I think that Clemson somehow is going to pull this out, even if Viziana is starting. I think that this is going to be just kind of a Hail Mary. Like if we don't win, if Clemson does not win this game, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. That's all I'm going to say. Next game up, we've got Texas Tech University versus Arizona State University. This is a big Big 12 game. Kind of like I said, I'd say Arizona State's the 3rd best team in the Big 12 right now with Sam Levitt, and a pretty good defense for Arizona State, and a very good running game. But I think Texas Tech has looked so solid over these last couple weeks. They're undefeated. They've dominated every single opponent they've played, and I think it's going to be maybe not the same against Arizona State. This might be close because it's the Big 12. Honestly, like it's the Big 12. But I think that Texas Tech will pull out. They'll pull through. Baron Morton has looked good, um, and I think they'll win this game. Next up, we will have Texas at Kentucky. I think this is an interesting game just because Texas is coming off the high from last week, and now they're going to have to come in and play a lackluster Kentucky team. I think Texas is going to get it done, but I think this is an interesting game just to kind of have on your radar, have on your docket of just like Texas could lose this. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, this is not guaranteed. Texas's offense isn't great, and I think if they don't score a lot of points, and I think if this stays close, who knows? Kentucky always has one game every year where they kind of keep it close, and they might have an upset. And I think this could be a game, and it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility with the way Texas has been playing this year. All right, so next game up, we have Missouri at Auburn. Missouri obviously just lost to Alabama, coming off a loss. Now they got to go into Auburn and play this game. I think Auburn, they just don't have a lot of offensive firepower, which is disappointing. I think you look at it, they have so many good weapons. Eric Singleton Jr., Cam Coleman, and Jackson Arnold at the front, who's really kind of taken on the everyman role in this. He's ran the ball, he's thrown the ball. He's really the centerpiece of this offense. Apologies. And I think that this is an interesting game. But it just Auburn has not looked the part this year, and I think Auburn just has not shown that they can win football games, and I think that's going to be the ultimate deciding factor here. I think Missouri just has a better. They have a better coaching staff, I feel like, and they have a better ability to win games. And I think Auburn might just be right up there with Missouri and in the aspect of winning games, but or not winning games, but having talent on the roster. They're just not able to use it as well, I feel like, throughout the season. So that's my opinion on that game. Next game, Utah at BYU. This is a ranked matchup, the Holy War. Here, the Mormon War. All the Mormons going to be at this game, and this is a interesting game. I think Bear Bachmeyer has looked solid. This is a prove-it game for BYU. They really haven't played a whole lot of people, and I think Utah they took the loss to Texas Tech, and after that this is another prove-it game for them. I think I like Utah in this game just because I haven't seen a whole lot from BYU, but I think this could go either way. But I do like Davion Dampier. I like Utah just a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it could go either way. I feel like with this one, and it's a rivalry game too. Just add that onto the pile, and I think you get an interesting matchup. Next game up, we've got Pitt at Syracuse, a ACC brawl. Steve Angeli out for the year for Syracuse, and they have not looked the part here. I'm going Pitt. I liked what they did last week against Florida State, and I think they're just going to add on to that this week. So, final two games of the week, two of the biggest games of the week. First one, USC at Notre Dame, another rivalry game. This one's a big one. If Notre Dame loses this game, I think they're out of the playoffs. They have 3 losses, no conference championship bid. I think they're out of the playoffs if they lose this game. So this is important for them to make sure that they win this game. It's at home, but USC is a good ball club, and I think that Jordan Maileva, I think, is going to give them a good fight. They've looked solid. I think Notre Dame is just going to pull this one out, though. I like their run game and their passing attack. I like CJ Carr a lot better, and I think their defense is going to be solid, and I think it's going to hold them up just a lot better. So next and final game of the week, we're going to be on site for this one. Trent is going to be at this game this weekend. It's Tennessee at Alabama. Big game. It's the third Saturday in October. Whoever wins this game is going to be lighting up cigars and having a good time. I think personally Alabama's going to not dog walk Tennessee, but I think that it's just Alabama is on such a whole different level from Tennessee from what I've seen right now. I think Tennessee's got a really good offense. Their defense is lacking, though. We've seen that against Mississippi State. We've seen that against Arkansas. And I think that it's just going to be shown more against Alabama. And I think on the road, it's a very tough thing for Tennessee to do. I think they can win it, but I've just seen so much from Alabama, and I haven't seen as much from Tennessee. So that's where I'm going to go. But I think Tennessee's got a good chance to maybe make this a shootout, I'll say. But so those are my picks for um, week number 8. Crazy that we're already at week 8. Like, that's insane. But we're here. So thank you for watching. If you're watching pre or after the fact, or if you watched live, thank you. I really appreciate it. Sorry it was just me tonight. But it is what it is. Got to keep the show rolling. Um, but thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video, but also go check out our TikTok, our Instagram. We're going to try to post more on those in the coming weeks. We'll post if we're at games. I'll be at the Charlotte Temple game this weekend. If anybody's going to be there, come say hi. Big exciting matchup. It's going to be on ESPN Plus. Woo! But come see me. Come see Trent if you're at the Tennessee Alabama game. And go follow us on Instagram. Go follow us on TikTok. We're going to be posting a couple more YouTube videos on here, hopefully over the next couple weeks. But we appreciate you watching. Thank you, and we will see you next time. Goodbye. Peace.